Well, hey, you made it. We got a lot of hungry fish to feed today, so I thought it'd be awesome to show you what we feed them. Let's get inside and get them fed. Might be wondering, why are we starting out in the kitchen? Well, I feed some of my tanks frozen foods. So before I get everybody fed, I like to get the frozen foods into their little cups and into some water so they can start thawing while we go ahead and feed some dry food. So we have to prep some bloodworms for my pea puffers, and we also have to prep some brine shrimp for our anemone and the clownfish. So let's get that going. These are just regular bloodworms for the pea puffers. I have about 10 of them, so usually 1 cube is enough, and whatever's left over I'll kind of just throw around in all my other tanks that maybe need it as a little extra treat. And then for the clownfish, they go nuts for this brine shrimp. It's a really good size for them. So we're just gonna get some RO water in here, let this thaw, and go feed all of our dry foods. This is regular RO water, by the way. I don't like to use the tap water just because of all the chlorine and stuff in there. So we're just gonna set those down, let them be. Got our little feeding tools there. And now let's go feed some dry food into my room. Actually, let's put this back so it doesn't thaw on the counter and stink up the house. We're in the fish room, my office / fish room, and we're here to feed the fish. I thought it'd be an awesome time to kind of give you a little showcase of all the fish I have, give their little close up, show you the Aquascape while we're feeding them, and overall, just have a good feeding video. Who doesn't love watching fish get fed and be all happy and wiggly? Like, look at Daphne right now. She knows what time it is. And with Daphne, I know I mention this a lot, but Daphne here, if you can see her, she's ready. She has a little pinched mouth. So when we put food in here, she can't really eat it that well by herself. So what I do is every day, I'll get some flakes here. So this is just the chlorella flakes here. This is a good vegetable mix and also has some probiotics in there. I just hold it right there, let the water get the flake food kind of in a little paste or a mold, and then I just slowly let it out so she can jump into it and get a good bite of it. And I already can see the comments coming. How do you have mollies with such a big blood parrot like this? One of the reasons is we keep her well fed and also that mouth deformity. Daphne has never shown signs of aggression. She is just happy, peaceful as can be. And as you can tell, she lives in a nice balance with these mollies, and they're taking their turn eating. I love watching it. And these mollies, if you come up to the top here, I have actually bred these mollies in my other tank, and they're so friendly that they'll just come into my hand and you can even just pick them up and they'll come right back. It's fun just interacting with your fish. You know, every time I interact or clean this tank, I'll drop some food in here. It just kind of does that reward balance for them, and it'll get your fish to be a little bit more personable. Next, we got Cam. Cam the betta fish has been with me for almost 2 years now. I can't actually believe that. That's awesome how time flies. But he just loves his little betta pellets. I put him up in this corner over here. As you can see, he knows right where to go. Let me get this plant out of the way. And what I do to kind of help Cam get a good amount of these little pellets is I put him right in this corner here. And what he does is he'll kind of use the glass to help him get those pellets into his mouth. So as you can see, he got a good amount of them there. And as for amount, I'm kind of just doing a little tiny sprinkle. And what I do is just observe your fish while they eat. If they seem crazy hungry after the first couple pellets you give them, throw a couple more in there. Now we got one of my favorite tanks, Anubis Mountain. This tank can be a little tricky just because it is a community style tank. There's over 50 rummy-nosed tetras. There's a lot of black mollies. There's actually about 7 orange Venezuelan corridoras in there, as well as a blue phantom pleco. I doubt we'll see him. I haven't seen him in a couple of months. He hides under the bottom. Every so often he comes out. So we gotta put some smaller pellets for our rummy nose, and we also gotta put some bottom food for our Corydoras and Plecos. So let's grab those. So it's kind of a mix. I like to start with the smaller foods first because there's so many tetras and mollies. I like to get them happy. So when we drop our bottom dwelling food, they're not going nuts over it. So these little nano pellets, as you can see, are just perfect for their mouths. So once I notice that most of the mollies and rummies, they're well fed now, I put a lot of food in there, I'm gonna grab our heavy sinking pellets for our Corydoras. And what I'm gonna do is kind of just try to throw them in the top here so they can land in this front sandy area. And whenever they want to come out and get some food, they can sift through that sand and find those heavy sinking pellets. It looks like one of those Corys back there is coming out. But with the plant growth in here, there is a lot of room to hide, so it's very rare that you see them, but there's a little baby Cory that actually bred in this tank. If you can see him right there, the mollies are right in front of him fighting him for that food. But he's a cutie. And then for our plecos and the pandagars that are in there, I like to give them some, little tablets to munch on. So what I do is I grab about 3 or 4 of these little tablets. Get these going here. I stack them up like that. Grab some big tweezers, get them in that right there. And since I know back in that back corner back there is where that big pleco hides, and I just like to kind of put these back here for him so that he doesn't have to come out too far to get some food. So, plecos, as you know, like to hide. They like to be in their little caves and mainly will come out at night. So right now, I just put it right next to his little cave. So whenever he's feeling a little comfortable, he can come out and get a little snack. Now, this has to be one of my top favorite tanks to feed. These Congo tetras are spicy. If you look at Congo tetras, they actually have a row of really sharp teeth, and they feed, in my opinion, almost like a piranha. They swarm the food, they smack at it, and they jostle at it. And so when you feed them some freeze-dried bloodworms that float on the top, if you look closely, you can actually see the Congos splashing water out of the tank. And while I've been filming or feeding, they'll splash water in my face, and it's just a fun little interaction. So hopefully we can get it here on camera for you. So we just let that soak up at the top there. Almost got the camera. All right, so we are almost done feeding my room here. I'm noticing that Daphne, though, is still a little bit hungry. I can tell that she is really trying to get my attention, as you can see there. Normally, when Daphne's all full, she won't follow me around like this, but let's just give her a little extra here just to get her happy. There we go, that was a big bite. And just like that, we got the dry food in my room out of the way. We still have one more tank left to feed some dry food while our frozen food is thawing out. We have the Firemouth tank. This tank is amazing to feed. I feed them these little insect food bites and they seem to go crazy over it. We have, again, some black mollies. You'll notice that's a common trend in majority of my tanks just because they're great algae eaters. And then we got these denison barbs here. They are an amazing schooling fish. And then if we can find them, we got two fire mouse hiding in here, but I think they do not want to come out at the moment, but maybe some food will lure them out. Those barbs just go nuts. They're shaped like torpedoes, so they can move through water very fast. Here, come right here. And while I'm thinking about it, there's a lot of articles and guides, and YouTuber A will have a different opinion to YouTuber B on how much you should feed your fish, the frequency, the fasting days, and all of those, they have a little bit of point and truth to them, but something over my years of keeping fish is observe your fish and how their eating habits develop. Not all fish, not all tanks will have the same amount of food you give them or the same amount of food that you're feeding them for. What I recommend is, when you feed your tank, take time, sit here and watch. How much food are they really consuming within a 2-minute period? Are their bellies getting too full? Are they overeating? After you're done feeding, is there a bunch of food left over? All of these things, if you start, observing them and identifying them, will really help you find that good schedule and balance for feeding your fish so that they're healthy and happy, not overfull and not underfed. Now, let's go get some frozen food and show you some pea puffers. I love feeding them. They're little underwater puppy dogs. And we actually got to feed the 125 too. We'll save that for last. That one's a good one for last. As you can see, our bloodworms have thawed out. So what that does is it just lets your fish eat them a little bit easier. And since they're thawed out, when they consume them, if they weren't thawed out, it would expand in their belly and it would give them just a little bit of intestinal issues. So you just want to let these thaw out good before you feed them. As you can see, these pea puffers know exactly where I feed them all the time. It's one of my favorite tanks to feed. I'll just sit down and kind of just have some fun with them. Interact with your fish. You're gonna hear me say it a lot, but really take an opportunity to learn and understand how your fish act and behave. So these guys, they know it's in this thing. So you can see them all swarming around. You can give them do a little loop-de-loop like this and they go nuts. There's no other fish that does this. And then what I do is just kind of get a little bit of it out so they can grab it. And pea puffers are pretty easy to see when they're full. You'll see at the end of us feeding them that all these little dudes will have very puffed up stomachs. You can already tell this guy up here, he's eaten a good amount and he's got a little lump right under his stomach there because he's got so many bloodworms in him. They are just the cutest. Look, they already want more. They're just, I'm telling you, they're like little dogs. Look at their little cute eyes. How can you tell me that's not them begging for more right there? He can clearly see this clear pipette, and he knows this is the food delivery tool. All right, there are a couple more fish in this tank. I think there are about 10 pygmy left, and they hide in this little plant center structure here. So what I do is I get just another little thing of bloodworms here, and I'll spray them down here away from the pea puffers, because if the pea puffers see that go in there, they're gonna go for it. So we'll spray that in there and then give the pea puffers another little distraction. And just like that, we fed our pea puffers. Now, there's some extra frozen bloodworms left over. We can put a lid on this and put it in the fridge and it would be good up to 3 days. But what I like to do is I like to go around to my other tanks I fed the dry food to, and I just like to get a little bit of this into that tank, gives them some variety, changes it up for them, and it's also just like a little treat. So now we can't forget about some other tanks that I skipped over. Sometimes with so many tanks I get lost on where I'm at, but I definitely want to show you my little shrimp bowl over here. Something I use to keep this tank going. No filter, no nothing. This just has a light on it. So it can't take a lot of food, but there are some breeding shrimp in here. Yesterday I saw one that was saddled and one that had just dropped her eggs into the fanning area. So what I like to do is get some Cat's Aquatics, these little calcium and nutrition things. And what I do is I just get a big one, put it right into an open area, and that just sinks down. And in about 20-ish minutes, we'll have tens of snails over it, bunches of little tiny shrimp. And if they come out in time, we'll make sure to come back and get that on camera for you because it's adorable. And these two vases, they don't require any food. These just live off of the algae and the little debris that are in there. The snails just keep these things going. Super excited. If you want to see how those are done, I just uploaded an awesome video showcasing the entire build. So let's grab our brine shrimp here with our bigger turkey baster tube here, and let's go get that saltwater tank fed. This is probably gonna be an awesome shot. My wife is probably going to kill me, but I always say it wrong. Anemone, feeding this little nem here is crazy. If you don't know, nems are actually a living organism that has a same structure as any regular fish or creature. Has a mouth, has a body, has a bone structure, all of that. And you actually have to feed them every day or every other day. So what I do is I grab some brine shrimp like this. Since saltwater is a little bit more temperament, what I do is I cycle out some of that cold water that's in the baster. So I'm sucking in, sucking out, and it's actually getting some of that warm salt water in here, so it's not such a shock when we spray this over the nem. But right when we put the food in the nem's little arms, he's gonna curl up to pull it into his mouth that's right in the center there. So what we can do, you can watch, look at his little arms curling up around that food. And it's actually grabbing it. And what it does, it's gonna close up on itself. And there's a little mouth in the center, and it will string those arms over top of its mouth and pull in whatever food was stuck to one of its arms. So you can see now it's just closing up fully. So all those arms with food on it can just get sucked right up. Put a little bit more in here for the clowns. And if you look down here, there's actually a pistol shrimp coming out. And there's a nacerious snail coming out as well. He knows it's feeding time. He can smell it in the water and he's looking all around. And then we have a little blue hermit crab over on the other side. He can smell the food in the water. And we feed this tank more than just the frozen food because we have our little nacerious snails, we have 2 little crabs and some other snails as well. I like to grab more of a vegetarian plant-like option. So this is just like a seaweed pellet. It's a quick sinking one. So what that allows is it'll sink down to the bottom and let our pistol shrimp and our snails and crabs have something to munch on as well, because you know these clowns are not letting any of that frozen brine shrimp fall to the ground. Yeah, look at that nem. He is just balled up. He is eating. He's got a big belly right now. It's so crazy. Saltwater is a whole nother universe when it comes to practically everything about it. Not in the difficulty, but just everything that saltwater has. It is just extremely interesting. And if you're interested in starting a little saltwater tank, check out Hello Reef. Awesome, highly recommend it. Oh, we did this guy. Now we got the 125 next. We saved the best for last. So in this tank, we have my favorite fish, the Geophagus altifrons. I have 3 of them. They're a little skittish right now, just because we came up to the tank a little quickly, but once the food's out, we know they won't be skittish for long. So yeah, they saw the food come out and they're not skittish. They're waiting right at the front now. They were just playing with us. With this tank, we got the electric blue acaras, we got some clown loaches, the Geophagus altifrons like I mentioned, 2 tiger severums, an orange spotted severum, and 2 bashirs. The severums and bashirs like to hide out in the back there. So what I do, I grab a little handful of pellets just like so. I actually lift up this back thing and I throw these pellets against the back wall so that they fall in that little hiding space I have in the back there. All right, we just fed the 125. They were a little skittish. I think having the camera and all the lights on was just a little bit too much for them. So we'll give them some space to eat their food we laid out to them. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming along, feeding all my fish with me, checking out my tanks, and just having a good day. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. If you want to see any more of these tanks in more depth or detail, follow me on Instagram. And of course, hit that subscribe button on YouTube for more in-depth videos just like today.